This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry.
What's happening, Post Shifters? I'm probably going to be dead on time because it's 8 o'clock here, so it's only, I want to say 5 a.m. back home in Canada on the West Coast, so I think I'm going to nip this one on time. I listened to a podcast today from Bartender at Large. If you haven't listened to it, I'm going to put the link in the description here, with Simon Ford, who is the CEO of 86 Company. As you can see, I'm pretty casual right now. It is, as I said, 8 o'clock. I'm still working. It's Tuesday night here. I've got 10 days left in Singapore, and I have quite a long list of things that I need to achieve and get delivered to my clients before I finish my stint here. I'm really looking forward to getting home. But going back to the point, I want to talk about entrepreneurship and I suppose my story. I don't really class myself as an entrepreneur. I suppose because I've always been in the business of being in business for myself, I suppose. My dad and mum got married. My dad's from England, my mum's from Australia. And my dad was highly trained in the UK Navy, and he came to Australia, and Australia did not view any of his tickets, so his sign writing, and a few other things as legitimate tickets, so he couldn't use them in Australia. So he came to Australia. Unfortunately, my uncle had a criminal record, so he couldn't go into any sort of police force, which he was highly trained to do in the Navy in the UK. So he couldn't do anything that he really wanted to do when he came to Australia, and so he became a long distance truck driver. And he worked for a lot of people throughout the years, and I remember moving around homes a lot. Like, I went to 14 different primary schools. I think it's about 14 different primary schools and high schools in total. Moved around a lot, changed schools a lot, which I think I've discussed about me not being able to make good friends these days. So we moved around a lot, and it wasn't until he got much older. I would have been 11 or 12, so he would have been in his mid-30s when he was able to scrape together and do a business loan, as well as some grant money, which I remember sitting in the car for hours and hours and hours on end while my mum and dad, because it wasn't electronic back then, it was all had to be driven down to this office, put into the office, interviews, everything like that. And they finally scraped enough money together to get a truck, or a couple of trucks. One relatively big one and one small one. And that's when my dad and my mum became the business people that I saw, and I think that I've mirrored image that off quite a lot. Their creativity when it came to marketing, because again, this is all pre-internet. This is like 1993, 94 was when I started working full-time with the family business. So I was about 13, 14. My brothers were much younger when they started. And they would literally print out at like a Kinko's. I use Kinko's because we don't have Kinko's in Australia, but like similar to Kinko's, or print them out at home when we finally got a color printer, and would print out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these flyers. And then they would drive around estates. Anyone that didn't have a lawn, they would take the flyer, not put it in the letterbox, but put it into the door, like slide underneath the door. And 90% of our business, like, we had a huge success rate. Whenever we got quiet, mum and dad would go out and do it again. And we had a huge success rate on just these, like, we're talking like 5 cents a piece flyers. And it was so simple, but it was so consumer facing and gave that extra touch. And then on the back end of that, when you did hire us, we really worked, I think, very, very hard to under promise and over deliver. And it's been something that stuck with me. And I was in business for myself as a landscaper back home in Australia for a little while. Did the same sort of process, really successful at that as well. Again, this is pre-internet. Just as the internet's coming out, like 2001. And had a lot of success with that. But I hate the word entrepreneur, I think, because everybody has it on their Instagram profile and their LinkedIn now. But just because you have because you're the only person in a company and you're the CEO does not make you an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. I might get a ton of flack off this. But I was listening to Simon Ford and Erick Castro, both business people themselves today, and huge shout out to both of them. I usually don't listen to bartending podcasts. I try and change up a little bit. Lots of Gary Vee, obviously. But it was really raw, like really raw. Like Simon, like really no holds barred told about how 86 Company came about, the struggles they've had, everything. And it was like, it's nice and eye-opening because we get this sort of, this horrible sort of mentality where we assume that you put entrepreneur on your business card and all of a sudden you're super successful. And coming from where my parents were and how much work that took all through high school, I remember working a lot, which at the time I hated, but it set me up for a really good work ethic for the rest of my life. But Simon and Erick were super raw about everything, and I think I don't like to call myself an entrepreneur because I'm a one-person party, I suppose. I'm a one-person show. If I had staff, maybe, but I don't think... I think we're just in the business of the hospitality industry, and I think the hospitality industry can be so multifaceted and so diverse that you can really, if you are a bartender and you're starting to get to the end of your life cycle, because we all get to the end of our life cycle. Some of us don't, some of us do, and you have a knack for web design. Hit up restaurants and do restaurant web design, because you know what a restaurant needs to succeed because you've seen it. And you can really build out businesses, but on the flip side of that, you understand that you have to eat shit for a number of years, like solid number of years. Like, people see my success. I'm in Singapore and I'm opening bars and restaurants in Singapore. That's great, but I've eaten shit for like 5 years, and I'm just starting now to get over this precipice where I'm starting to roll really nicely with cash flow and capital, and starting to build businesses and build my projects out a little bit more. And I'm being very thoughtful in how I do that. My wife's been very understanding when I want to spend X amount of dollars on a bunch of t-shirts for BC Spirits. By the way, it's a nice plug to go over to the BC Spirits website and hit swag and buy some shirts, because that pays for web design, app design, some more promotions. I'm wanting to do videos. I'm not really putting a lot of time into BC Spirits right now, unfortunately, because I am in Singapore and these projects are pretty big. I'm hoping that the new year brings me some reprieve, that I can put some efforts into some people to help me out with this. But if you want to go out on your own and be an entrepreneur, please be very, very mindful that it's all not popping bottles and going to nightclubs, driving Ferraris, especially in the hospitality industry. If you look at everybody who has been successful in the hospitality industry, like major, like driving Ferraris, Gordon Ramsay, that sort of thing, which both Gordon Ramsay and Jamie Oliver have lost a whole bunch of money too. But it's pure, they have fucking 150, 200 restaurants that are making this much profit. So you have to be very mindful that your one restaurant's not going to buy you a Ferrari. And if you want to go into any other business, any side hustles that are hospitality related, you have to be very mindful that the people that you're going to be your clients, who are your guests and your final end game, your clients, if they're in the hospitality industry, they're not going to have a lot of money either. And a lot of my businesses that I've set up have been very wary of the fact, whether it's Human Construct, my design company with Colin Parks, being very, very mindful that restaurant startups, distillery startups, that sort of thing, haven't got a huge amount of budget just to be thrown around on branding, design, websites. Everybody thinks there is. That's why there's been a massive explosion of design houses specifically designed for the BC distillery market or the winery market, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, these people, like a lot of these people, can't spend 10% of their opening budget on branding. You need to be very mindful of your end consumer. And same thing with my BC Spirits project. I understand that I'm not going to be able to go and ask every distillery in BC for $5,000 in advertising to build out an app or a better website or any more interaction, because they don't have $5,000 laying around to spend on that sort of stuff. And really, if you were in their shoes, you could reverse it. If I wanted to spend $5,000 on advertising or anything like that, you would be looking at least 4 times to 5 times ROI. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go over time for an IGT video, but I've been really enjoying this episode. While I've been here in Singapore, I've been very open with the fact that it is very fucking lonely. I'm away from my family, which is very, very difficult at times. I have my good days, my bad days. Usually I have my great days every day, but then there's a portion where I can't call my wife or text her or message her or FaceTime my daughter, and that 6 hour, 7 hour like break when they're asleep is quite hard for me. Just because I am working as hard as I am. Again, you're not going to be rolling out tons and tons of money. You might have one success and then 10 weeks of grind, and then another success, and then another 10 weeks of grind, and it's exhausting. But that success is so rewarding at the end of it all. So if you're going to do this, be prepared to fucking grind and grind hard and keep grinding. And when you think you're exhausted and you can't go on and you're burnt out, unfortunately, you don't have anyone to keep paying your bills. There's no one above you that's paying your bills. You are accountable for everything you do. So you're going to grind it out again. And then you'll have success, and then more success, and it'll be shorter periods of time between successes. And that's what you want to get to. And those successes are great highs, and you fucking going to have the best highs. And then you're going to have the crushing lows of failure. But you're in control. You are the boss, and you have to look at that freedom as something that is completely and utterly amazing and awesome in this world. But this is my little take on entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, Simon Ford and Erick Castro, for the podcast. I emailed you both and told you how fucking awesome it was. I can't wait to us cross paths and actually sit down and do this again, or actually chat to you in person. I really look forward to having both of you on my podcast, simultaneously or separate. But thanks a lot, guys, and Post Shifters, thank you very much for everything. I appreciate all the support. Podcast is blown up in the last week and a half for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's some Singaporeans and some Europeans, and everybody's sort of jumping on board with it. So I'm really appreciative of everything. So I'll see you on Friday. Actually, this Friday is Kelsey Ramage. Kelsey Ramage, yeah. Kelsey Ramage is on this Friday from Trash Tiki. Going to be an awesome episode. So thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.